prices.
My prices.
Alien prices. Alien prices.
No, come to two. My price.
That's Tim and Eric. For inspiring musicians of the 80s, 90s, and even the early 2000s, MTV was a get-go channel to expose the public to fresh, new, original, and creative music that pushed boundaries. It still heavily influenced musicians on the grand scale, defined a generation, changed the culture, and changed the music industry forever. For inspiring comedians of the 2000s and to the present day, Adult Swim is the get-go channel to expose the public to fresh, new, original, and creative comedy shows. This has all heavily inspired today's modern comedy with its cringe, surreal, shock, and dark comedy. You could say that Comedy Central is the network that is equivalent to MTV and a heavy influencer on today's modern comedy. In a way, I agree with that, but in my opinion, Adult Swim has a lot more fresh, original, and creative programming than Comedy Central. Don't get me wrong, Comedy Central does have fresh, original, and creative programming, but it's nothing compared to Adult Swim's programming. But I digress. From the heavy inspirations of Monty Python and Andy Kaufman, the humor of Adult Swim's programming would be subtle with surreal humor, dark comedy, shock comedy, satire, cringe comedy, and anti-humor. Shows that have this on the programming of Adult Swim would be Tim and Eric shows, Xavier, Renegade Angel, The Heart She Holler, and many more other shows. The humor of these shows would deliberately mess with the audience and even target a specific group of people to satirize, like for example Aqua Teen Hunger Force. The reason why Aqua Teen Hunger Force was created was for pothead college kids, so the show could deliberately make fun of them on TV in front of their face. You see a lot of comedians nowadays talking with the audience or deliberately making a show or have their comedy act to appeal to a specific group of people so they can satirize them in their face, basically. Original comedy shows on Adult Swim are transgressive, edgy, and experimental. This has had a heavily influence on today's modern comedy due to the boundary-pushing content and humor. The show that the formula for Adult Swim style of humor came from was the first produced show for Cartoon Network, which was Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Space Ghost Coast to Coast was an adult animated parody talk show that featured 1960s Hanna-Barbera cartoon character Space Ghost as a talk show host and him interviewing celebrities from real life. With the awkward interviews and randomness, the show popularized cringe comedy to the mainstream audiences, along with the show's anti-humor, surreal humor, absurdism, and lo-fi animation. Space Ghost Coast to Coast delivered the style of humor that Adult Swim shows will have, but one of the first original shows of Adult Swim that will cement it is a show that I previously have mentioned, and that show is Aqua Teen Hunger Force. That show pushed boundaries by being even more avant-garde and weirder than Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Since Space Ghost Coast to Coast was a major precedent to early Adult Swim shows, Aqua Teen became another major precedent for future Adult Swim shows by being a ground for weirder and avant-garde comedy shows. The show not only broke ground for more boundary-pushing television, but its appeal came from a diverse group of people, and it appealed to African Americans without being exclusively appealing to them. Tim and Eric, awesome show, great job, was Adult Swim's first live action show, and it was one of the most absurd and boundary-pushing shows on the network at the time. If Space Ghost with its cringe humor and Aqua Teen with its real humor had a kid, Tim and Eric, awesome show, great job, would be the baby. The show is very awkward, absurd, and random, but that's why I think it is a great show, and it is one of the network's most important shows. The show single-handedly shaped how modern comedy shows work. You can see influences from Tim and Eric's work from new shows on Comedy Central and even shows on NBC. You can see influences from their style from people on the internet, and they have been responsible for multiple viral videos and memes. With what happens on the show, along with celebrity guests and Craigslist guests, the show made being awkward and weird cool. It made it easy to talk about, and made it, most importantly, memorable. Well, that's all I have to say about the influence that Adult Swim has had on modern comedians, and the viewing public. I hope you all enjoy this video. Before I leave, though, let me end this video with one of the best intros ever, along with the greatest Adult Swim show ever. Hold on here. Well, goodbye everyone, and I hope you have a nice life. Until next time.